Have you ever stopped to think why the sudden long silence of a major world leader could actually, completely change how we view global trade or even geopolitical stability?
It's a fascinating aspect of, well, highly centralized power systems, isn't it?
Hmm.
When basically every single public appearance is engineered for maximum symbolic impact, the absence of the leader.
Mm.
Well, it stops being just a gap in the news.
It becomes the news itself.
Exactly. It's the biggest story. It immediately flags a kind of vulnerability that, official statements would just never admit to.
And that's pretty much what we're looking at right now with Xi Jinping, isn't it? Our sources are pointing towards a really serious, um, quite unusual information blackout.
Yeah, the leader of the country has, for all intents and purposes, vanished.
Right. His usual rhythm of activities, the public visits, those big speeches, the photo ops, they're either just gone, completely missing, or, drastically cut back.
And the official state media.
Conspicuously silent.
Hmm.
Which is loud in its own way.
Especially now. This is happening right as geopolitical tensions are, well, frankly, through the roof. And just before a really critical party Congress. It makes the whole situation potentially explosive.
So our mission here is to try and dissect what we actually know, which is mainly the absence itself, and connect that to the huge external and internal pressures that China's facing right now.
Think of this as your shortcut to understanding what might be the biggest political mystery playing out in Beijing today.
Okay. Before we get any deeper into the analysis, though, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and support Geo9. All right, let's start with the internal side, the environment inside China. When state media, which, let's be clear, controls information, meticulously suddenly just clams up about the most powerful person in the country.
It creates a vacuum, instantly.
Exactly. And that vacuum, especially somewhere like the Chinese internet, which is so heavily controlled, it just gets filled immediately with, well, speculation.
That's the core mechanic, isn't it? In a closed system like that, the official silence basically forces speculation to become the substitute for actual facts.
And the rumors are spreading fast.
Oh, they're running wild. And they're incredibly varied. We're seeing everything from theories about, say, a heart attack or some major medical crisis,
Okay.
to claims that maybe he's just taking an extended, maybe even mandated rest because of all the intense political pressure he's been under.
Right.
Or, maybe even some kind of internal party decision to sort of cool down the cult of personality stuff before the Congress.
But what feels different this time compared to, past rumors about him being absent, which always turned out false, right?
It did.
It's the context, isn't it? This silence is happening right up against a major immediate external shock,
Which is
the tariff war.
Yeah,
Between
right.
the U.S. and China, it has just spectacularly reignited.
precisely. And we're not talking small scale here. We're talking about the recent announcement out of Washington about potential 100% tariffs on a whole wide range of Chinese imports.
100%. That's not just a trade spat.
No, that's basically an economic declaration of war. It threatens to completely overturn supply chains that, rely so heavily on Chinese manufacturing.
And Beijing's response.
They've already fired back pretty strongly, calling the measures devastating for global trade stability, accusing the U.S. of using blatant double standards just to stifle China's growth.
Okay, so here's the crux then. Why is the leader's silence at this specific moment so critical?
Well, the timing implies something potentially catastrophic. If Xi Jinping really is incapacitated or, dealing with serious health problems right now,
Yeah.
this stops being just a domestic political issue. It morphs into a strategic turning point for the entire world.
Wow.
The potential end of the Xi era happening while the country is under such extreme economic pressure. It basically guarantees the sudden arrival of a new leadership, maybe less stable, a new strategic direction. It's huge.
Okay, wow. That really puts it into perspective. If you're finding these insights useful, just a quick reminder to take a second to subscribe to Geo9. It really motivates me to keep sharing more research stories like this. Now let's really drill down on the lack of facts here, because that's kind of the heart of this whole mystery, right?
Absolutely. We have to stress there is zero credible, verified information about any serious health problems. Zero.
No leaks from official sources, no doctor
You're right.
statements.
No independent confirmation whatsoever. All we have are these indirect signals.
Sure.
The unprecedented stop in his public appearances, some reports of unusual personnel changes happening, and, of course, the big one, the silence from state media.
Right. It's worth remembering, though, isn't it, that the system is kind of built to handle this, to project stability even when things are shaky behind the scenes.
It is. But the sheer scale of the speculation this time feels, well, significantly larger than, say, those rumors back in mid-2025. Remember those?
Vaguely, yeah. They were debunked pretty quickly with photos, weren't they?
Exactly. Photos came out, story over. The stakes feel profoundly higher now, largely because of how much power has been centralized under Xi.
How so?
Well, his singular symbolic role means that if he stumbles, the entire centralized structure he's built kind of stumbles with him. There's less resilience in the collective leadership now.
Okay, so let's zoom out again. Connect the silence back to the geopolitical situation. You mentioned it's gone beyond just trade tariffs.
Oh, absolutely. The tensions now are fundamentally political, strategic even. A prime example is China's recent move to tighten its control over rare earth exports.
Ah, the rare earths, always a flashpoint.
Exactly. That move wasn't just economic, it was pure strategic leverage. Rare earths are, vital for everything from fighter jets to smartphones.
So Washington reacted?
Immediately,
Yeah.
prompted threats to bring back even broader tariffs and clear accusations of economic aggression. This economic fight has the real potential to escalate very, very quickly into a major geopolitical confrontation.
Especially if the leader holding the reins suddenly seems to have disappeared.
Precisely. That adds a massive layer of unpredictability.
Which leads us straight to the core vulnerability, doesn't it? What does this potentially mean for the internal power dynamics inside the party?
Yeah, let's game that out hypothetically. If Xi were suddenly truly incapacitated, the system would likely fracture, at least initially.
Fracture how? What would that look like?
Well, it's basically the opening that various factions within the party might have been quietly waiting for. It would almost certainly trigger an intense round of internal power struggles.
Not just jockeying for position, but deeper fights.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about deep ideological battles here, not just, generic bargaining.
Can you sort of sketch out who the main players might be in that kind of scramble?
Sure. Broadly speaking, you'd likely see the more pragmatic, maybe technocratic faction, perhaps some of the old guard who might favor, say, a return to more economic liberalization, maybe decentralizing some power back to local levels, and possibly a less assertive foreign policy to stabilize trade relations.
Okay, the pragmatists. And the other side.
On the other side, you'd have the more hardline ideological faction. They'd likely push to double down on current policies. More state control, increased ideological discipline, maintaining that assertive foreign policy stance, particularly in places like the South China Sea.
So if she were out of the picture, these groups would be fighting for, well, the future direction of the country itself.
Exactly. It's not just about who succeeds him, but about the very soul of the party's direction.
Which makes the stakes incredibly high.
Yeah.
It's a defining moment. Do they try to keep this super tight personality-driven control, or do they allow a more collective style of governance to maybe reemerge, weakening that central grip?
Precisely. And that is why in such a, delicate political climate, the silence itself becomes probably the loudest form of communication possible.
Because everything is usually so choreographed.
Exactly. In a system where every detail, every single appearance is meticulously calibrated for meaning, the lack of public visibility isn't just an absence. It's read as a deliberate signal.
A signal of what, though? Massive internal uncertainty.
That's certainly how it's being interpreted externally.
So how are Western analysts trying to read these tea leaves? They can't rely on official statements, clearly.
No, they look for the indirect stuff, things that are harder to fake or, sanitize.
Like what?
Things like closely tracking the movements of high-level government aircraft or unusual sustained road closures near Zongnanhai. That's the leadership compound in Beijing.
Okay. Physical movement.
Yeah. And also odd changes in the CCTV broadcasting schedule. That's the main state TV network. They often get immediate instructions when there are leadership shifts. Any sudden deviation from the norm is seen as a potential hint about drama unfolding behind the curtain.
And what seems particularly alarming, according to some intelligence chatter, is that this silence coincides directly with quite significant increased military activity.
That's probably the most concrete signal we have of heightened tension right now. The PLA, the People's Liberation Army, is reportedly gearing up for large-scale maneuvers in sensitive zones, like the South China Sea. Plus, we've seen confirmed movements of large transport vessels in key ports, places like Shenyang and Fuzhou.
And how is that being interpreted?
Broadly, it's seen as the military basically demonstrating unwavering loyalty and strength to the central authority precisely because there's this acute internal uncertainty. It's a show of force and stability.
And then there was that really concerning, though unconfirmed, report mentioned in some Asian media about senior generals maybe being granted temporary special powers.
Right. That specific claim, and again, it's unconfirmed that special powers might have been granted just to maintain order.
Well, it speaks volumes about the level of systemic anxiety perhaps gripping the top levels of the party.
Suggesting they're preparing
It
for.
suggests they might be preparing for a scenario where normal civilian authority could be briefly compromised, and they'd need the military to step in forcefully to ensure stability. That's the implication, anyway. Okay, so looking ahead, for those of us watching this unfold, what are the key things we should be looking out for? What are the signals that tell us if this is resolving or maybe escalating?
Well, the first and most obvious one is Xi Jinping suddenly reappearing. If he shows up, holds a meeting, gives a speech, even briefly now, it instantly punctures most of the rumors.
Okay, his physical presence. What else?
Beyond that, keep a very close eye on the personnel chessboard. Look for any unannounced reshuffles in the military command structure or in key party Politburo positions. Who's suddenly getting promoted?
Yeah.
Whose names are quietly, disappearing from official mentions.
The movements within the system.
Exactly. And also, critically, analyze how and where the official Chinese media eventually releases information about him, assuming they do.
What do you mean?
Well, if it's just a brief, highly controlled text announcement, maybe with no photos or video, the suspicion's likely to continue. If, on the other hand, it's a major multi-day media blitz showing him out and about, interacting with people, then the system is clearly trying to project overwhelming confidence and control.
Right. So the key takeaway here is probably don't treat these rumors as solid facts about his health. Instead, view them more as functional signals of tension. They actually reveal where the system's pressure points and maybe its fault lines really are.
Couldn't agree more. The bottom line is this whole information blackout is both deeply suspicious and incredibly symbolic. It highlights the potential fragility of this kind of hyper-centralized power.
And if the rumors are being managed somehow as disinformation or part of some internal party game.
Well, if that's the case, it just confirms that significant instability is currently being perhaps manufactured or navigated right at the very top. Either way, it's unstable. The world is essentially watching, holding its breath to see if Beijing managed to project that unbreakable confidence, or if this inadvertently triggers wider panic.
That potential for, as you put it, tectonic shifts hidden beneath the calm surface. It feels very real right now.
And that surface is currently disturbingly silent.
So what's your take on this unprecedented silence and this coinciding surge in military activity? Share your point of view in the comments.